Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Harinam Sankirtan ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. My name is Manjari Gopika, Devi Dasi. And I ask for your blessings today. This is my first time giving a Srimad Bhagavatam class. Please pray that I may speak something pleasing to my spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of the devotees. So today we will be hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 11. I have been asked to cover verses 1 through 42, which is the entire 11th chapter. Interestingly enough, this chapter is about time, and it is mathematically impossible to, within 45 minutes, speak all 42 verses, recite our focus verse, read the purport, speak the focus verse, and then do class on it. So what I am going to do, though, is summarize the contents of the 11th chapter, and then we will hone in on the focus verse, we'll recite it together, read the purport, and we'll progress from there. So, summary of verses 1 through 42 of chapter 11 of the third canto. This section it talks about the calculation of time from the atom. And Sage Maitreya answers Vidura's questions from the previous chapter, chapter 10, regarding the relationship between space and time and the function of eternal time. Sage Maitreya at first describes the calculation for the three worlds, namely the lower planets, the middle planets, which is where we are, the earthly planets, and then the upper planets up to the heavens. A year on Earth is equal to 1 day of the demigods. So 1 year of the demigods is equal to 360 years of human beings. He describes how there are 4 yugas. You are all familiar with them, the millenniums, the Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yuga. This one cycle of the 4 yugas is called one divya, which means divine yuga. This one cycle of 4 yugas, as per human calculation, consists of 4,320,000 years, which is equal to 12,000 years of the demigods. So one divine yuga is equal to 12,000 demigod years. Then Sage Maitreya goes on to describe that beyond the 3 worlds, i.e. Mahar, Jana, Tapa, and Satya Loka, which is Lord Brahma's planet, 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas equals 12 hours. And similarly, night is also 12 hours. So 1,000 cycles is also known as one kalpa. During the night, Lord Brahma goes to sleep, and that is when all the 3 worlds below Maharloka get destroyed. For the first 100 demigod years, there is a fire that emanates from Lord Sankarshan. Then for the next 100 demigod years, there are torrents of rain. All the 3 worlds remain submerged in the waters of devastation throughout Lord Brahma's night. During these 1,000 cycles, i.e. one kalpa, which is Brahma's 12 hours, 14 manus take birth, one after another, and each manu lives for 71 cycles of 4 yugas. By this calculation, Lord Brahma lives for 100 years, which is 311 trillion and 40 billion human years. So text 34 describes how Lord Brahma has already lived for 50 years. His entire life is equal to Lord Mahavishnu's 1 nimesha, which is less than a second. Text 40 onwards, the sage describes the various layers of the material universe. In essence, time is the all-devouring factor in this world. Even Lord Brahma, who has the longest span of life, has to die. We will now chant our focus verse for today, which is, yes. What? I already did that. We can do that one now, yes, for sure. So we'll chant the invocation prayers. Do we have them there? No? If you know it, it's the Narayanam Namaskrita. Oh, there it is. Narayanam Namaskrita Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarvatvitim Vyasyam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nascha Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We will now head over to verse 33 of chapter 11. I'll recite the first line. You repeat after me. We have that ready. Thank you for your help. It's okay. Evam videra horatre Kalagatyo palakshite Apakshitam mivasyapi Paramayurvayashatam. Would anyone like to recite? Evam videra horatre Kalogatyo palakshite Apakshitami Vasyapi Paramayor Vayashatam Evam Videra Horatre Kalagatyo Palakshite Apakshitami Vasyapi Paramayor Vayashatam Evam Videra Horatre Kalagatyo Palakshitai Apakshitami Vasyapi Paramayor Vilashatam Evam Videra Horatre Kalagatyo Palakshitai Apakshitami Vasyapi Paramayor Vayashatam. Let's do the word for word meaning. Evam, thus. Vidai, by the process of. Aha, days. Ratre, by nights. Kalagatya, advancement of time. Upalakshite, by such symptoms. Apakshitam, declined. Iva, just like. Asya, his. Api, although. Parama ayu, duration of life. Vaya, years. Shatam, 100. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Thus, the process of the exhaustion of the duration of life exists for every one of the living beings, including Lord Brahma. One's life endures for only 100 years in terms of the times in the different planets. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Every living being lives for 100 years in terms of the times in different planets for different entities. These 100 years of life are not equal in every case. The longest duration of 100 years belongs to Brahma, but although the life of Brahma is very long, it expires in the course of time. Brahma is also afraid of his death, and thus he performs devotional service to the Lord just to release himself from the clutches of illusory energy. Animals, of course, have no sense of responsibility, but even humans who have developed a sense of responsibility while away their valuable time without engaging in devotional service to the Lord. They live merrily, unafraid of impending death. This is the madness of human society. The madman has no responsibility in life. Similarly, a human being who does not develop a sense of responsibility before he dies is no better than the madman who tries to enjoy material life very happily without concern for the future. It is necessary that every human being be responsible in preparing himself for the next life, even if he has a duration of life like that of Brahma, the greatest of all living creatures within the universe. This verse speaks about how time is relative with respect to different planets. For instance, a moth lives its 100 years within 1 day of human beings, whereas Lord Brahma lives for 311 trillion and 40 billion years as per human calculation, but that in turn is no more than one breath of Kranadakshayi Vishnu. And sequoia trees are said to be older than 5,000 years. So it's not about how long does one live, It's all about how does one live. And there are seminars conducted throughout the world on the art of living, but Srimad Bhagavatam teaches us the art of dying. So today's verse really harkens back to the first canto. Who can say the circumstance in which the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken?
Hare Krishna. Maharaj Parikshit was cursed to die in 7 days, and he wants to hear all of Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, he asks a bunch of questions.
Yes.
He wants to know the answers before he dies, and he has a limited amount of time.
Yes, perfect. Yes, King Parikshit was cursed to die in 7 days by the bite of a snake bird. You think you have problems. Has anyone seen a picture of the snake bird? It's on the cover of one of the cantos. It's absolutely straight out of a horror movie. Imagine a 10-foot tall king cobra with like dragon wings. So he's cursed to die in 7 days, and he accepts the curse. He had the power to counteract it, but he said, it's my responsibility, I'll accept the consequences. And for our benefit, he summoned all the great sages, and he asked them 6 questions. Does anyone know what the first 2 questions are? Can you remember? Yes. So the first 2 questions he asks are, tell me of the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically of those who are just about to die. And in the purport of that verse, Prabhupada states that out of those 2 questions, the question relating to the dying man is most important because everyone is a dying man very shortly or after 100 years. So practically the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning from the 2nd canto all the way through the 12th, is dealing with these 2 questions. And the conclusion is that devotional service of Lord Krishna, as confirmed by Krishna himself in the last phases of the Bhagavad Gita, is everyone's permanent duty and responsibility in life. And the sages speak a very famous verse in the 1st canto, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yatto bhaktir adokshaje ahetukiya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. Definitely one of those verses that we memorize. The translation is, the supreme occupation, dharma, of all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Yet Prabhupada notes in the purport of today's verse, Canto 3, Chapter 11, verse 33, what are people doing with their time? Not that. Not that. He says that people while away their valuable time without engaging in our dharma, without engaging in devotional service to the Lord. They live merrily, unafraid of impending death, and this is the madness of human society. He says that a materialistic person is no different from an insane person. So human life alone is a life of responsibility. It is the first body that we take after going through the 8.4 million species where we can serve God, where we can actually engage in our supreme dharma. And later in the 1st canto, the sages say that life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So that's what we are meant to be doing instead of acting like madmen. I'll share with you that I lived in New York City for many years, and about 11 years ago, I was new to Krishna consciousness, and every Saturday, I would go to Bhagavad Gita class at 26 2nd Avenue. And very often those classes were given by really exalted teachers. One of the first classes that I went to, was led by His Holiness Romapat Swami. And I don't remember what verse he spoke on, but he said something that changed my life. I was about 25 or 26. And he looked out at the room and he said, "What is the philosophy of your life?" I was dumbfounded. I was like in shock. That question had never occurred to me. I kind of was looking around like, am I supposed to have one? Does everybody else have one? Does everybody else know what they're doing? So philosophy gives us purpose, right? And our lives, Srimad Bhagavatam tells us, they have a meaning, they have purpose, and we only have up to 100 years to achieve it, to find it, to engage with it. And thankfully, we have the process of the regulative principles to guide us on this path of bhakti, because responsibility is about what we should do, and it's also about what we should not do. So if the supreme occupation is to engage in a relationship with Krishna, is to serve Krishna, what should we do? And what should we not do? Yeah, we should read Srimad Bhagavatam. Go to class, everything you guys do every day. Chant. What should we not do? Yeah, the four regulative principles. We should not spend time, or close association. I mean, I have a job. I have to work with people who are not devotees, but we shouldn't engage in close relationship with people who have a different philosophy than us, who have a different objective than we do. I mean, I shared, I was dumbfounded at 26 Second Avenue because I had no objective in my life. I was trying to be a good person. I was following all the laws of society, but I had no guiding philosophy, and it had never occurred to me that I should, that every moment of my day should be directed at one aim. So, and yes, the four regulative principles. So sometimes when people learn about Hare Krishnas and how we don't eat meat or drink alcohol or sleep around or gamble, the reaction is what else is there? What fun can you have in life? I'm reminded of once Srila Prabhupada was asked by a reporter who had learned about the Hare Krishna lifestyle. The reporter asked, "What do you do for recreation?" Prabhupada said, "Our movement is simply recreation." Singing, dancing, feasting, chanting, hearing these wonderful pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with the best friends you'll ever have in your life. In fact, I have been to more parties as a Hare Krishna than I ever did in the 25 years before I joined the movement. There is a wonderful festival every week that tops anything I ever did in New York City. But we do have the same, one could say we have the same needs as animals. We have to eat, we have to sleep, procreation, shelter, defending ourselves. But unlike animals, Prabhupada notes, we have responsibility. We have the responsibility of learning our true nature, of learning our purpose, and we have to make choices that will support that. Time is such a fleeting thing. 100 years sounds like a long time, but it isn't, and most of us won't even live that long. I am reminded of, in the Mahabharata, Maharaj Yudhisthira must answer a series of riddles. And one of the riddles is, what is the most wonderful thing in the world? Does anyone know what the answer to that was? Microphone.
You mean what Yudhishthira told?
So there was a riddle that Yudhishthira had to answer, and the riddle he was given is, what is the most wonderful thing in the world? What was his response?
The response was, the people, they live, they live as though they are not going to die.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes, his answer is the most wonderful thing in the world is that everyone all around me is dying every day, yet each person thinks it won't happen to them. And on his deathbed, Prabhupada, as he was leaving his body, surrounded by young, healthy, able-bodied disciples in their 20s, all of these young men were in their 20s at his bedside. He looked at them and he said, "Don't think this won't happen to you." In America, we have a famous saying, there are only two guarantees in life: death and taxes. They will both hunt you down. They will both find you. So if we look at life from the material platform, you could say, and we hear this phrase often, that time is very cruel, because time takes away our attachments. It takes away our beauty. It takes away our youth, our wealth. Very few people are wealthy for the entirety of their lives. There's always an up and a down. Time takes away our relationships. It takes away our prestige. But we learn in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna's time. And Krishna removes these things because they're obstacles to our consciousness. And at this, also, Krishna's very kind. Krishna's very kind. He gives Brahma so much time to serve him, and he gives us so many opportunities. He gives us 100 years maximum each time we're here in this human body to come back to him, to turn our consciousness toward him. So I'll stop here and see what you all would like to discuss.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say that it depends on how you look at it. You can look at it instead of like you're getting these things taken away, but you had all this time. You got these things in the first place. It just depends on what you do with them. Like you could use all these things you have. Youth, for example, you're able to get up, go to serve, and all these things that you're supposed to do versus things that you're not supposed to do. Don't take advantage of them until they're gone.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very nice, of using these gifts that time gives us for the purpose of our dharma. Tell you right now, it's a lot easier at your age to go to Mangal Arti, so it is. Gokulananda Prabhu. Wait. 1 second. Less than yeah. Time is conspicuous by its absence. Can you speak into the microphone, please? Please share that story.
and he's taken to the pillar of fire. And the minister says, oh my dear king, it is also the custom of our kingdom that whenever the king dies, and the queen dies, the king also has to enter the pillar of fire following up. And then the minister says, but we also give a chance for the dying person to express his last wish. So what is your last wish? And the says, I want to purify my body because I have to enter this pillar of fire. So it's okay. And he enters the water and he comes out and he sees everyone popping up. And finally Krishna comes out of the river smiling at him. So that was the answer to Arjuna's question. He wanted to see Maya. So within few moments of that sport that they played in the water, Arjuna lived for 45 years. He ruled over the kingdom. He had his wife and children. So I was just relating that, to what Prabhupada said. When we go back to the spiritual world, it is like this, the flash of moment. Within that flash of moment, we have millions and millions and trillions of lifetimes. Mahavishnu's creation and annihilation. Sorry for taking long.
No, thank you, Gokulananda Prabhu.
So I have a question for you, because you were saying that you weren't living with a philosophy, that you didn't have that. And what did the implementation of a philosophy into your life bring for you?
It took away a lot of my anxiety, I think. So I was a religious person growing up. I grew up Catholic. I know sometimes you hear about like renegade Catholics who like didn't like their religion. I never felt oppressed by my religion, but I moved away, and I like would pray at night, but I didn't go to church regularly. And it was such like a Sunday, it was like kind of like a once a week kind of religion, you know what I mean? Like we never talked about God when we weren't at church. But so I grew up with the idea of like, quote unquote, being a good person, right? Like don't break any laws and like don't steal, like don't be mean to people. But once I learned that, it took away a lot of my anxiety. The specificity of the Bhagavad Gita brought me so much comfort to hear that like Krishna's got it covered, and all of Arjuna's questions were, I was just like, yeah, what about that? Like, what if you try and you fail? And Krishna's like, it's okay, next lifetime you can pick it up again. And just hearing about the 4 types of people that will come to Krishna. So hearing the philosophy of, hey, this is what you should do in the morning, you should chant, you should eat these kinds of foods, you should avoid these kinds of foods. I was like, that is great to know. That is great information. I never had access to that information. So actually implementing that structure, it brought me so much peace. So much peace. I didn't feel so alone anymore. I didn't feel so anxious anymore, that I was like, trying to manipulate the world on my own, I think, if that makes sense. Thanks for asking.
2 questions. One is, did you read the entire Bible? And 2, what was the philosophy?
I did read the entire Bible. I actually went to Catholic school my whole life, and I was always interested in theology. And I actually would read the epistles written by the saints. I was also really fascinated by the idea of saints having a personal relationship with God. I remember thinking, like, why doesn't God speak to me? Like, why are they crying? And he like visits them in dreams and stuff. But then as you get older, you get engaged in your sense gratification and your attachments, and that religious part of me kind of fell away. I was 25 in New York City, so like you figured out. But I did read the Bible. What was your second question? What was my philosophy? After he asked the question, I just really loved hearing from Bhagavad Gita. I was really excited every time I opened Bhagavad Gita. I read it on my own, and I read it in class, and I really enjoyed hearing these very special devotees. Everybody who spoke there were all direct disciples of Prabhupada. Really enjoyed hearing about how to implement this philosophy into your daily life. It wasn't just about like how Jesus died for your sins and we should be kind to other people. It was what kind of music you should listen to. You know, what kind of people you should hang out with. What does it mean when something doesn't go your way? So learning all of that helped me in my daily life. I wasn't so attached to the outcome of things, you know? I became less ambitious. I really allowed space for Krishna's will in my life. I was an actress, by the way. And I did off-Broadway, but I really lost that drive after, and not in a lazy sort of way, but in a way of like, you know, I'm going to show up and do my best and not compare myself to others and not really force anything, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think that part of my personality definitely changed. And I'll share this too. Like, I wasn't following regulative principles before I became a devotee. And the main reason that people drink alcohol, I can tell you from experience, is because when you drink, you have no problems. I'm not encouraging you to do it, because it all comes back. But I'm saying, like, that's why you would go out and meet friends, because life is really stressful in New York, and everybody's trying to make it, and rent is so high, and you're on a train with thousands of strangers every day. Like, your nervous system is in overdrive. And when you drink, you forget. You forget about your problems. Well, I didn't need to drink anymore, you know? I knew how to deal with the world. And I was also doing a lot of yoga, which helped me regulate my nervous system. I didn't need that in my life anymore. I had no desire for it.
Thank you for sharing your personal experience with us. I was thinking about time, because this class was all about time, and how time brings about change. That's like the main feature of time, is that everything changes in due course of time. And I was just thinking that that's why time is such a prominent feature in the material world, whereas as someone was saying that in the spiritual world it's conspicuous by its absence. Because here in the material world, things need to change, or more specifically, we need to change. Mm-hmm. We need to change our consciousness, because we come to the material world due to a rebellious mentality or an envious mentality. And so it's like Prabhupada says, it's like a prison. It's a correctional facility, and people go to prison and they do time. Right? So we're like here, serving our time, and that time is meant to change us, and it does change us. The whole material world is designed that either the easy way or the hard way, but something's going to change. And that change is good. So that's why, we're hearing about how time is the impersonal feature of the Lord, and Krishna is all good. So all these changes that take place, even though they may seem difficult and unsettling to us, but they're actually bringing about the ultimate good. Everything that happens here is for our good. And then in the spiritual world, it's like time is not necessary, because nothing needs to change, because everything is perfect.
Right.
It just is.
Thank you so much. And that reminds me of how, doing time. In the West, we have the prison system, where depending on what your crime is, you're convicted, you're sentenced to a certain number of years, and then every few years you come before the parole board, which I believe is 3 to 5 people, and they review your case. They look at what you did wrong, and then they look at what have you done with your time in prison? What have you done? Have you joined Narcotics Anonymous? Do you help out with the church liturgy? Do you help train guide dogs for the blind? Have you tried to reach out to the victims that you offended? And they look to see that there has been a transformation of your character based upon your actions. And then they decide if you should be released. And that's what your comment just made me think of. That's what we're doing here. We have this time. What are we going to do with it?
I was thinking, if you're doing time, maybe they should just make you become a Hare Krishna. Everybody has to get up at Mangala Arti and do this, and then see what happens in the prison. That would be funny.
That'd be your sentence.
Yeah, that's your sentence. You become a Hare Krishna, and you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Chant 16 rounds.
That's our sentence, exactly.
be a wonderful program. See a lot of change. I have a question. I really appreciate your point that so much about time isn't so much how much there is or how much there isn't. It's about how you spend that time. And, we talk about, of course, there's these, as working on being devotees, we can chant, we can sing, we can dance, but that only makes up a certain amount of time. Really, it's very unpractical for somebody to be chanting japa like all day or doing these. So how does somebody practically take that into their life? How do they practically understand how to be a devotee when they have so many responsibilities, so many duties and these things?
I have learned, thank you for that question. I've learned from some exalted devotees over the years, some at 26 2nd Avenue, to spiritualize your free time. And I like to think about, so we have the 9 to 5, like I work a full-time job and I'm a mother, I'm a wife. So I have a 9 to 5, but it's really all about your 5 to 9. What do you do before your other obligations start? I get up very early, not because I'm super excited about it, but so that I'm always tired. That's my other philosophy. Do it tired. Just do it tired. But I do it because you have to create time for the chanting. No, like the perfect day is never going to fall into your lap of, oh my gosh, I have so much time to do all the things on this list. You have to create the time. You have to create the structure of, I'm going to chant 4 rounds in the morning. I'm going to chant 4 rounds midday. I'm going to chant 4 rounds at 4 o'clock. Or, sorry, that's only 3 rounds. That's only 12 rounds. Okay, I'm bad at math. But you know what I'm saying. Or I'm going to spend 1 hour in the morning from this time to this time. I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I'm going to get 10 rounds done. And then I'm going to do the rest later. I like to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam when I drive to the office. I have a very long drive. It takes me almost an hour. And who do you spend time with when you're not working, Who are you going to go for a walk with when you want to exercise? Choose a devotee. I text my friend about the things I'm reading in Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm not a pure devotee. I don't have a consciousness where I'm thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day. I don't know that I'll ever be that way, but I do choose to make space for devotional activities because nobody else is going to do it for me. And that's the best advice that I can give, is to look at your day and find time for Krishna and block it off. And if something else comes along that conflicts with that appointment, you say no.
I really appreciate that. We actually say something once a week in Krishna House that says, I'll make japa a priority in my life. And so what I'm hearing you say is make those things a priority. Organize your life in a way that these things are there, and then everything else kind of fits in there. And
exactly.
But you're not going to be as stressed, or you're not going to be as anxious, or you're
exactly. One of Maharaj once said, for his advice about chanting was, he said you should do it his advice was to do it early in the morning because that's the time where you have nothing else to do. So to get up an hour earlier, even though you may be tired, make things a priority. Oh, there was something else that I was going to say. I can't remember it though. Yeah, make it a priority. Oh, I'm a yoga teacher, and I practice in the lineage of BKS Iyengar and his son Prashant. Iyengar has this famous quote in the Iyengar community where he was talking to the Iyengar teachers, and he was saying, because you have to teach so much and you have to study so much if you're going to make a living as a teacher. I only do it part-time. But he was saying to the students, he was like, you all complain that you have no time to practice. If you make the time to practice, you will have time for everything else. Meaning, if you make that your number one priority, because it should be, trust me, you're going to find time for the rest of the stuff. So prioritize the number one priority.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the class. I just wanted to share also because you started talking about His Holiness Radhanath Swami, and if it's okay, I just wanted to share that he was my main inspiration for beginning to chant 16 rounds, because I heard a lecture by him that said that what did he say? He said about people, they're doing so many things like service and everything, but if they aren't chanting, then they can't do anything. And he was stressing about that chanting is the most important thing, that we're praying to be of service, and that's how we can do it. And then he also said something that really stuck with me. He said that as far as discipline is concerned, it's a commitment. And he said that if somebody is chanting, and this is when I wasn't chanting, 16 rounds. I was only chanting about 8, I think. And he said if somebody tries to chant 16 rounds a day, and they just try every day, then it will be very easy. And I was like, how is that? I was just thinking, it's a lecture, I was just thinking, how is that? And they said, he said, no, if someone actually just chants 16 rounds every day, it would be very easy. But he said that when it would not be easy is if they go off and on.
Yes.
Right? Off and on, trying, I'm paraphrasing what he said, sorry. But like he said, off and on means that some days you do, some days you don't. And then it'll be very difficult to try to get back to that point. And so because of His Holiness Radhanath Swami, I was able to make the leap to chant 16 rounds, and I wanted, and I basically was doing it every day because I feel like I wanted to follow that, what he was saying.
Thank you so much. That's really, really helpful for everyone. Oh, it's 8:29. If anybody has 30 seconds left of something to say, otherwise we'll close.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all very, very much.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Pramanande. Hare.
Oh, thank you. Aw, that's so pretty.
Yeah. Oh, it was really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very
so
much.
Last week was actually my first Bhagavatam class as well.
Oh, you did
It
so
was-
well.
Thanks. So it's nice that, kind of
Very good.
I'm glad that you were asked to speak. I hope you speak again.
Thank you so much.